If you tried to read everything Western philosophers ever wrote, you wouldn't just be busy, you'd be dead. Even reading one book every single day would take you 7,000 years. That's longer than all of recorded history. And in the time it's taken me to tell you this, 3 new philosophy papers were published that contradict everything you just learned. But here's the craziest part. Even after all that reading, you still wouldn't have all the answers. So forget the 7,000 years. We're going to speedrun the entire history of Western thought in exactly 20 minutes. And I'm going to explain it like you are 5. The year is 600 BC. You're a farmer in ancient Greece. The ground shakes, the sky turns black. You don't check a weather app, you assume Zeus is having a bad day and personally trying to kill you. This is mythos, explaining the world through gods and monsters. But then the Greeks did something revolutionary. They asked, what if there's an actual reason the sky does that? That question changed everything. We switched from mythos to logos, from magic to logic. The word philosophy literally means love of wisdom. And it all started with one man trying to solve one puzzle. Meet Thales. He watched ice melt into water and water boil into steam. He asked a deceptively simple question. Is everything in the universe made of just one thing? His answer? Water. Obviously, he was wrong about the water part, but he was right about the revolutionary idea. Natural things have natural causes. Rain isn't Zeus being angry, it's just water falling from clouds. Thales didn't just invent philosophy, he invented science. The idea that the universe is a puzzle we can actually solve. Once you start asking, what's the universe made of, you can't stop. And immediately, Greek philosophers started the longest argument in history. Meet Heraclitus. This guy looks at a river and has a thought that breaks reality. He says, you can never step in the same river twice. Why? Because by the time you lift your foot and put it back, the water you touched is already downstream. It's gone. New water replaced it. The river looks the same, but it's completely different. Then he took it further. You're not the same person either. Your cells are dying and being replaced right now. The you from 5 seconds ago is literally gone. Change is everywhere. Change is the only thing that's real. Sounds convincing, right? But then another philosopher heard this and said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Meet Parmenides. He's the opposite of Heraclitus. He says change is impossible. It's all an illusion. So the universe must be one unchanging thing. What you think is change, like ice melting into water, isn't real change. It just looks different. But underneath, it's always been the same stuff. Both of these guys used pure logic. Both sounded smart, and they completely contradicted each other. So who's right? Is everything changing or is nothing changing? Enter Democritus with the most brilliant compromise in history. He invents what I call the Lego theory. Democritus says, what if the universe is made of tiny, unbreakable blocks? He called them atoms, which in Greek means uncuttable. Here's the genius part. The atoms themselves never change. Parmenides is happy, but you can rearrange them into infinite combinations. Heraclitus is happy. You're not destroying or creating anything. You're just rebuilding the Lego set into something new. And remember, this is 2,400 years before we actually discovered atoms. Democritus figured this out with zero technology, just his brain. But here's where philosophy takes a dark turn. Because figuring out what rain is made of is easy, the real questions are way more dangerous. The year is 399 BC. The place is Athens, and the man is Socrates. Socrates is a weird guy. He's ugly. He never washes his clothes. He has zero job, but he has one superpower: being annoying. While everyone else is building temples and winning wars, Socrates walks around asking one question: why? He finds a general and says, you're brave, right? Yes, obviously. What is bravery? Charging into battle without fear. So if I charge into battle drunk and stupid, that's bravery? No, that's reckless. Brightness, so bravery isn't charging without fear. What is it then? And he just keeps going. He doesn't give answers. He asks questions until the other person realizes they have no idea what they're talking about. That was Socrates. He called this the Socratic method, and it's still used today. Good teachers don't just tell you the answer. They ask questions until you figure it out. He questioned everything. He questioned the gods. He questioned traditions. He questioned why anyone in power deserved to be in power. Athens got so annoyed they literally voted to execute him. Socrates had a student named Plato, and watching his teacher get executed for asking questions messed him up. Plato looked at Athens, at the corrupt politicians, the dumb mob, the fact that they killed the smartest man alive, and he said, this world is broken. Maybe it's not even real. So Plato invented a whole new reality. He called it the world of forms. Here's the idea. Everything in our world is just a cheap knockoff of a perfect version, that exists somewhere else. Think about a circle. You can imagine a perfect circle in your head, right? Now try to draw one. You can't. Even with a compass, if you zoom in, it's jagged and imperfect. So Plato asks, if you've never seen a perfect circle, how do you know what one is? His answer, because the idea of a perfect circle exists in the world of forms. People disagreed, fought, and even killed over opinions. Plato saw that opinions change, but math and basic ideas don't. So he said, truth must live somewhere untouched by people, power, or violence. Plato says, we're all prisoners. Philosophy is the brutal journey out of the cave, and most people will hate you for trying to free them. But Plato's student was about to say, cool story, but let's focus on the actual world. Meet Aristotle. If Plato's head was in the clouds, Aristotle's feet were planted on the ground. Aristotle wanted to categorize everything. He dissected animals. He studied plants. He watched the stars. He basically invented science as we know it. He created the 4 causes, 4 questions you should ask about anything. Let's use a statue as an example. It's made of marble. It's shaped like a warrior. It was carved by a sculptor. It exists to honor the gods. But Aristotle's most important idea was about how to live. He invented virtue ethics. Most people think being good means following rules. Don't lie, don't steal, don't kill. Easy, right? It's not that simple. Being good isn't about rules. It's about balance. He called it the golden mean, the sweet spot between 2 extremes. Take courage. If you have too little courage, you're a coward. If you have too much courage, you're reckless and stupid. The virtuous person finds the middle, brave enough to act, but not so reckless that they get themselves killed. Same with generosity. Too little, you're stingy. Too much, you're a fool who gets taken advantage of. And here's the key. You don't learn virtue by reading about it. You learn it by practicing. You become brave by doing brave things. You become generous by being generous, over and over until it becomes natural. So the Greeks built the toolkit. Reason, atoms, questions, balance, but then the world fell apart. Alexander the Great conquers the known world. Then he dies at 32. His empire shatters into pieces. Suddenly, you're not a proud citizen of Athens anymore. You're just some random person in a giant, chaotic empire run by distant kings who don't care if you live or die. Your city-state? Gone. Your community? Scattered. Your sense of purpose? Vanished. Philosophy changes fast. Philosophy became therapy. People stop asking, what is the universe made of? And start asking, how do I not lose my mind when the entire world is falling apart? 3 schools emerged to answer that question. The Stoics. Control your controller. The Stoics taught one simple idea, the dichotomy of control. You can't control what happens to you, only how you react. Can't control the rain? Don't get mad at it. If you accept the rain, you're just wet. If you fight it, you're wet and angry. The Epicureans. Less is more. Epicurus said the goal is ataraxia, complete peace of mind. But not through parties and luxury. Those create anxiety. His advice, bread, water, good friends, quiet garden. Stop chasing pleasure. Chase the absence of pain. The skeptics, I don't know, and that's fine. The skeptics refused to believe anything for certain. They practiced epoche, suspension of judgment. Is there a God? Maybe. Should I eat the sandwich? Probably, but who knows? They said the moment you believe something too strongly, you start suffering, so just don't decide. And somehow, they claimed this made them happier. The Roman Empire is crumbling. Barbarians are invading. Cities are burning. And into this chaos, Christianity spreads like wildfire. But here's the twist. Christians didn't burn the Greek philosophy books. They remixed them. Meet Augustine. He spent his youth partying, drinking, and generally living his worst life. Then he found God and had a realization. Why do I know what's good but still do bad things? The Greeks, especially Socrates, said, if you know what's right, you'll do what's right. People only do bad things because they're confused. Augustine said, nope, I can know stealing is wrong and still want to steal. I can know lying is bad and still lie. Why? His answer, original sin. We're born with a glitch, a crack in the code. We're broken from the start. But if God made everything and God is good, why did he make us broken? Augustine's answer, he didn't. We broke ourselves. Adam and Eve had free will. They chose to disobey. And that choice corrupted all of humanity. But wait, if God is all good and all-powerful, why does evil exist at all? Augustine's solution is genius. Evil isn't a thing. It's the absence of good. Think of it like this. Darkness isn't made of anything. It's just the absence of light. Cold isn't a substance. It's the absence of heat. Evil is just where goodness is missing. It's a shadow, not a monster. This solved the problem. God didn't create evil. Evil is just what happens when people turn away from God. But fast forward 800 years, meet Thomas Aquinas. He's a monk, but he's also obsessed with Aristotle. And he asks, can I prove God exists using pure logic? His most famous argument, the unmoved mover. Imagine dominoes falling in a line. Each domino falls because the one behind it pushed it. Makes sense, right? Now trace the line all the way back. What pushed the first domino? Something had to, but that something couldn't have been pushed by anything else. Or it's not the first. Aquinas said, that first pusher, the thing that started everything without being started itself, is God. Same logic applies to the universe. Everything has a cause. But you can't have an infinite chain of causes. Eventually, there has to be one thing that caused everything without being caused. That's God, the unmoved mover, the first cause, the thing that started it all. Then there's William of Ockham. He gave us Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. Here's how it works. The cookies are missing. Your little brother has chocolate smeared on his face. Option A, a ninja broke into your house, ate the cookies, and framed your brother. Option B, your brother ate the cookies. Occam's razor says, cut the ninja. Go with the simpler answer. This sounds obvious, but people constantly overcomplicate things. Occam was saying, stop inventing elaborate explanations when a simple one works fine. This became one of the most important tools in science. When two theories explain the same thing, pick the simpler one. Then the Renaissance happens. Scientists like Galileo start doing experiments. And guess what? Aristotle was wrong about a lot of things. The Earth isn't the center of the universe. Heavy things don't fall faster than light things. The stars aren't glued to a crystal sphere. If the smartest guys in history were this wrong, what else are we wrong about? Can we trust anything? This terrified people. Enter René Descartes, a French philosopher sitting by his fireplace having a full-blown panic attack. I think, therefore I am. Descartes decides to doubt everything. Every single thing he's ever believed. He looks at his hand and thinks, what if I'm dreaming? I've had dreams that felt real before. He looks at the fire and thinks, what if an evil demon is tricking me? What if this whole life is a hallucination? He even doubts math. What if the demon made me think 2 + 2 = 4, but it's actually 5? But then he realizes something, even if I'm being tricked, I must exist to be tricked. If I'm thinking I might not exist, then who is doing the thinking? Cogito ergo sum. That's the one thing he can't doubt. Even if everything else is fake, he is real. From there, Descartes tries to rebuild everything. Though he does get stuck in some logical loops, like using God to prove his senses work, then using his senses to prove God, he gives philosophy a fresh starting point. But his method created a new war. Philosophy splits into two camps. The rationalists, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz. Truth comes from thinking. Use your brain. Logic is the key. Forgetting the empiricists, Locke, Berkeley, Hume. Truth comes from experience. Use your senses. Observation is the key. John Locke says, you're born with zero knowledge. Your mind is a tabula rasa, a blank slate. Everything you know came from what you saw, heard, touched, tasted, or smelled. You weren't born knowing what red is. You saw red things. You learned. This was revolutionary because before Locke, people thought you were born with built-in knowledge, like knowing 2 + 2 = 4 without being taught. Locke said, nope, you learned that too. Then George Berkeley takes it further. He says, if all we have are our experiences, how do we know the physical world is real? Think about it. You've never touched the tree. You've touched the experience of roughness and hardness. You've never seen the tree. You've seen the experience of brown and green. So maybe the tree only exists because you're experiencing it. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Belly says no, because sound is just the experience of vibrations. No ears equals no sound. But wait, doesn't that mean things disappear when you're not looking at them? Berkeley's solution. God is always looking. So things exist because God is constantly, kind of. Then comes David Hume, and he's about to destroy philosophy. Hume looks at causation, the idea that one thing causes another, and says, prove it. Conserve one billiard ball hit another. The second ball moves. You say, the first ball caused the second to move. But Hume asks, did you see the cause? Monitored, no. You saw two events happen in order. Event A, then event B. Your brain created the connection, but you never saw a cause. You've just seen event A, followed by event B so many times that you expect it. It's a habit, not a law. You can't prove the sun will rise tomorrow. You've just seen it rise every day before, so you assume it will again. Hume says, we can't know anything for certain. We just have very strong habits. This broke everything. If Hume is right, science doesn't prove anything. It just makes really good guesses. Philosophy was in chaos. Then a quiet German man saved the day. Immanuel Kant wakes up from what he calls his dogmatic slumber after reading Hume. And he has a realization. The problem isn't the world. The problem is us. Imagine you were born with blue-tinted sunglasses glued to your face. Everything looks blue. The snow looks blue. The sky looks blue. Is the snow actually blue? No. But to you, it always looks blue. You can't take the glasses off. Kant says, our brains are those glasses. We don't see reality as it is. We see reality as our brain organizes it. Time, space, cause and effect, those aren't out there. Those are the glasses. Kant calls it the categorical imperative for how we structure reality. Our brains automatically organize everything into time, space, and causation because that's how we're built. This saves science. Because even if the real reality is chaos, the reality we experience is organized and predictable. Kant's moral law. What if everyone did this? Kant also creates a test for morality. He calls it the categorical imperative. Before you do something, ask, what if everybody did this? Should you lie? Well, if everyone lied, no one would trust anyone. Language would become meaningless. Society collapses. So lying is bad, because it only works if most people don't lie. Should you steal? If everyone stole, ownership means nothing. The concept falls apart. Kant says, being good means making rules that work if everyone follows them. And Hegel comes along and says, Kant, you're right, but you forgot something. The world is changing. Hegel says history is a giant argument. Someone says, kings should rule. Someone else says, no, the people should rule. They fight. Out of that fight, democracy is born. Then that becomes the starting point for the next argument. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. History isn't stuck, it's evolving. Every age builds on the last. We're not just repeating the same mistakes. We're learning, slowly, painfully, but we're moving forward. Reality check. Bell says history is progress. But people look around at child labor, factory workers dying at 30, and poverty everywhere, and they say, this is progress. Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill create utilitarianism. Do whatever creates the most happiness for the most people. You have one cookie. You can eat it yourself or share it with 10 people. Sorry, the math says share it. 10 people happy beats one person happy. It's cold logic, but it works for policy. Should we build a hospital or a stadium? Which helps more people? Karl Marx says, forget ideas. History is about economics. Who owns the factories? Who does the work? Who gets the profit? History is a fight between the owners and the workers. Eventually, the workers will revolt, take control, and create a classless society. Windshield was right or wrong. He changed how we think about power forever. SØREN Kierkegaard says, you can't calculate your way to truth. Life's biggest questions, love, God, purpose, can't be solved with logic. You have to make a leap of faith. It's like jumping off a diving board in the dark, trusting there's water below. You can't prove there's water. You just have to jump. Then Friedrich Nietzsche walks in and smashes the diving board. He says, God is dead, and we killed him. He doesn't mean literally. He means we stopped believing. The old moral rule book, gone. So now what? Without God, where do we get our values? Nietzsche says, create them yourself. Become the Ubermensch, the Superman, someone brave enough to invent their own purpose instead of following the herd. Faithfully are sheep. They follow. They obey. They don't think. Nietzsche wants you to be a lion. Break the rules. Make your own meaning. Live dangerously. The 20th century. Philosophy fractures. Philosophy splits into different schools. Pragmatism. Does it work? William James and the Americans say, stop debating abstract truth. Just ask, does it work? If believing in God makes you a better person, then for you, God is real. If it doesn't help, drop it. Truth is whatever is useful. JFK existentialism. You're free. Deal with it. Jean-Paul Sartre says, a hammer is made to hammer nails. It has a purpose before it exists. You're the opposite. You exist first. Then you invent your purpose. You are condemned to be free. You can't blame anyone for what you become. No excuses. No destiny. No script. Just you, making it up as you go. Terrifying. Liberating. Both. Today, your turn. Rewritten. Now we ask new questions. If AI writes your essay, is that cheating? Should a self-driving car sacrifice you to save 5 pedestrians? What rights does a robot have? Philosophy isn't something you memorize, it's something you do. It's the tool you use every time you ask why, instead of just saying, okay. The conversation has been running for 2,500 years. Now it's your turn. Ask big questions. Challenge assumptions. Live the examined life. Because as Socrates said, the unexamined life, not worth living.